Thank you very much, Amar, and good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Uh, Amar, just to give you a global perspective of what is happening across the world, and then, of course, we can connect to Pakistan, is that, I mean, the transition has been driven by the low cost. So, in IRENA, besides several other subjects, we also hold the repository of data on renewable energy cost. So, when we see the trend over the last 10 years, we see a significant decline in the cost of renewable energy. So, for example, only solar has dropped around 87% in the last 10 years, drastic. And if you compare it with other fossil fuel-based technologies and options, the cost has been going high. So is the case for wind, which has dropped around 55%. And the most important, you talked about the evening time, the battery storage, which we often also called a missing piece in the energy transition puzzle. The cost has dropped over 90% in the 10 years. And these cost reductions have kind of accelerated the energy transition across the globe, across different economies. Of course, Pakistan is one of the front runners in terms of adoption of renewable energy technologies. So this basically gives us a global landscape of what has happened. So we also collect the data on the capacity, the addition globally. So even it resonates with the cost in a sense that more than 90% of the new capacity addition last year came from renewable energy across the globe. If we see the finance, the number is somewhere around $2.4 trillion across the world, spent poured into the energy infrastructure, and out of 2.4, $1.3 trillion have gone into renewables, power grids, or electric vehicles. So we really see where the world is putting their mind and money in that sense. So coming back to the issue of Pakistan, I mean, our panelists alluded to around 50 gigawatt or above 50 gigawatt capacity imports that have happened. A lot of has had already been deployed behind the meters. It is all good on paper, but of course it has created a lot of challenges for the system, which traditionally has remained a central system run by the utility scale power plant, kind of a monopoly from the government as a single buyer and single seller. So I think that the complication it has brought in also have a solution that exists in different countries. In terms of lesson learned, if we go into some of the country examples which have a similar kind of profile like Pakistan, maybe the closest could be Australia. I mean, there we have household, more than 35% of household have rooftop solar. So the way they did is that instead of curtailing solar or putting a restrictive policies, they kind of managed it. So I think what we really need is an investment at the infrastructure level, that too at the grid side, the distribution side, because we need to know how this 50, 55 gigawatt solar is going to be deployed or is deployed. But the recommendation that also comes, of course, is to include the battery energy storage so that whatever energy is produced during daytime can also be consumed in the evening time. Again, Pakistan fits into profile very well. I was just researching some data before this session. So it says that somewhere in the last 3 years, the battery imports have kind of increased by eight times in the last 2 3 years, which again shows that those who have installed solar are now kind of switching to put the battery backup as well through hybrid systems to also use that energy during the evening time. Of course, this creates a challenge for the government in the sense that now grid is kind of, I would say, not become redundant, but the supply for the grid is reduced or demand for the grid is reducing. So government is trying to increase the demand in the industries and other sectors. But the other thing I think we also need to do to have a fair and equitable energy transition is to also have a fair tariff regime. Uh, we had a net metering policy in Pakistan recently. It's been kind of moved to net billing policies. I know it's a sensitive topic, but frankly speaking, I'm more of a supportive of that idea. I truly believe that the cost at which we are getting solar at the previous policy is just too lucrative for those people who are putting solar. The equitable aspect comes because for most of the people who are installing solar are also the people who can afford it, who comes from generally affluent background. So unless and until we have a proper financing schemes available for some people who can't afford it, it will remain an inequitable energy transition. So that financing aspect, I think, is also some of the takeaways we get from other countries in the region, let's say in our neighborhood in India or in Bangladesh. Uh, Lastly, I would also, or in fact, last 2 points, I would also want to do to planning part. If you see, I have gone through the draft of the IG CEP, the Generation Capacity Expansion Plan. I don't know how the final document looks like or whether it's ready or not, but it is still very centrally grid focused based on the utility scale power plant. Distributed energy was considered into it, but only 7,000 megawatts, which is basically just a fraction of what was imported. So I think we also need to put distribution energy also at the center of planning. And when we do it, we need to move from basically generation planning to system planning, because the time you put distribution energy, you also have to put resources, effort plans for infrastructure, for transmission and distribution infrastructure. And very lastly, I think Sustainable Energy for All is working with the Ministry of Power on integrated energy planning. That again is a very popular concept which has been adopted by different countries across the globe. The idea basically is that when you plan for energy, just don't only plan for energy, also plan for other related sectors like industries, transportation, agriculture, and households. Because energy is just an enabler. If you keep those policies disconnected or plans disconnected, there's going to have a big gap between these two policies, and you will not be able to basically fix the problem. Because, and this is what we are seeing. For example, previously the industrial policies kind of didn't align. We see continuously the electricity demand kept on decreasing until till January, I think this year, where there was a increase in demand. So these are some of the takeaways. I mean, we already have covered EV, but I would also want to also say that after solar and now the battery revolution, the next revolution we will see very soon in Pakistan in terms of energy revolution is on electric vehicles. So I think we also should bring that.
Thank you, Kamran. Really